Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to every nook and cranny in Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, who receive those signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter. Those who are still listening to radio, that is, of course, as well. Good morning to everybody in the internet receiving our signal throughout the United States and the world. We are going to have a great program for you as usual. Today is Thursday, which means what again? It's Aquino Day. It's Aquino Day, founder of Houston Democracy Project. Anyway, folks, we are going to have some great topics to discuss this morning. But before we get started, of course, we move on to El Estudio con los genios que están ahí, sentando, mandando la señal por todo el mundo. We are here with our brothers in the house that make sure that signals get to every corner of our area. Good morning, geniuses. How are you guys doing this morning?
Well, good morning, Egberto. We have some interesting news for you that we're only going out on the FM transmitter. Our streams are down because AT&T took a hit yesterday in an area that is from Willowbrook Mall to Garden Oaks, from Jersey Village to I-45. There's a big old circle of dead A&T stuff. So we're just kind of waiting on them to get it together so we can hook up the tin cans and string and get our streamers going and get our servers going. What we're operating off of now is an emergency server that, it works, but that's about all it does. And it needs to be reset about every 11 hours is what I've discovered. So I get to go to the transmitter again later on today, as I was out there yesterday for about 3 hours trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do here? How am I going to fix this and get us back on FM? The HD2 channel, which is fully automated, it's fine. It's rolling right along the way it should. But the main transmitters, the main servers, are bypassed for the FM station. And we're just running off the local music server here. So there you go. Mother Nature has struck us again.
Well, let's hold this a couple. Let me tell you something, man, because here is the deal. All of you listening in your cars right now, that is the power of having geniuses in one's studio. You're hearing this stuff on the FM signals over that 100,000 watt transmitter, even as the big corporations that we thought never fail. And the individual who makes up part of these corporations who actually gets the things done in the corporation, he used his ingenuity to get it working. Now, I bet the president of AT&T can't fix and make things work. I bet the VP and all these other guys that make not once, twice, or more the wage of their average worker, but 320 times. And when things go wrong, Yeah, that's what it is. 320 times what your average employee makes.
Ooh.
And when things go wrong, the people that save the day are the Howards of the world.
The lowly.
We are laughing about this, but I want this is the perfect example to show people the seriousness of what we talk about here. When you are given inflation so that the corporate executives and the profiteers can make a lot of money, and they then claim it's because they make that kind of money because they bring innovation. They don't bring innovation. The ones who bring innovation are the Howards of the world, or the you of the world, or the me of the world. But they are the ones who get the spoils. And then they put us against each other. I have a story to tell about speaking to an undocumented worker yesterday that I can't do today because we have Neil and some other things to discuss. But if I forget over the next few days, remind me to tell this story. But here is the deal. Let's just go ahead to Brother Howard and say thank you. Thank you, brother. Anyway,
thank you, Howard.
Well, the hardest part is getting through the gate at the transmitter, because we have this monstrous gate out there to keep folks out. And every time it rains, it washes all the lubrication out of the rollers. I have a hell of a time getting that gate open. It's like, holy cow. So I carry a can of WD-40 with me, lubricate the rollers just so I can get the dang gate open. And then the rest of it is like, okay, well, let's see. Here's one brain cell dead.
That is great. And that's what you're supporting, KPFT supporters. This is the kind of work and dedication you are supporting. And go ahead.
This is what goes on behind the scenes, folks. There is a radio station that you're listening to, and the reason you're listening to it is your own. But how it gets to your radio is quite miraculous. It's just one of those things where the tin cans and string did not hold up yesterday, so I had to recreate another set of tin cans and string to make it work. And long about 10 minutes till 4, it came back on. Susan Darrow was all happy because Border Radio is now on. She had a guest coming in from Austin, had coordinated this some time back. And she said, please, please, please. I said, Susan, I can't do anything if I'm talking to you on the phone. So I got to go and figure this out. She says, oh, okay, well, go ahead. And she did. She sent me a very nice text and called also right around 6 o'clock and said, man, you just don't know what this means to me to have this thing back up and running for the interview that I had planned weeks ago. So it was one of those moments.
Hey, that's what a KPFT family looks like, folks. Anyway, and who would have thought that out of an experience that Howard had, we could actually tell yet another story of why programs like this, why stations like this are important. There you go. Thanks, brother.
Exactly. Now, Jack has a full page of wisdom over here. So let's go ahead and get to that. Jack, what you got, man?
Well, it's going to be about Medicare take advantage of you.
Those Grinches.
I hate how the insurance companies make us sick. Under George W. Bush and the for-profit the scam that is Medicare, take advantage of you, was born. The design is to undermine the consumer confidence in Medicare coverage, i.e. the 20% Medicare doesn't cover. Vision and dental benefits, which you need more of when you get older. This is the dope deal, aimed at the people who can afford a supplemental policy. The scam is the charge Medicare for your Care Plus profit, collect a premium from you to administer your care. They're paying themselves twice. Because your insurance is administered by a private you have to re-up your policy every year. At some point, if your care costs too much, they simply drop you and send you to a higher price supplemental insurance. This may not matter to the well-to-do, but for the working poor, it's a poison pill.
That is, go ahead, Howard.
Oh, I was going to say, that says it all right there.
That says it all. That says it all. Thank you very much for that. As you can see, that was one of the topics that we're covering today. But we must start this morning with the one and only founder of the Houston Democracy Project, and that is Neil Aquino. Good morning, Neil. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. Good morning, studio. Good morning, world, hearing us through the transmitter, a vast swath of the world, just through the transmitter.
Well, actually, we have the good thing about it is we're streaming in a lot of different ways. So we are also streaming at YouTube at youtube.com. So if you go to our webpage right now, that is facebook.com/KPFT Houston, facebook.com/KPFT Houston. You can actually watch the show on at our site, or you can go to politicsdoneright.com/TV. So we make sure to stream in a lot of different ways, and to, we just, again, this is a togetherness. We work to try to get that story out to you. And that's what we do, folks. Anyway, continue, my brother. You wrote 2 great blogs. And, after reading them, I sat down and I thought, my God, why is it that elective officials don't learn from experience? But anyway, let me just go ahead and let you tell us about it. Let's start with the one of your friend who spoke to City Council.
Right. This is at a Houston Democracy Project, a blog at HoustonDemocracyProject.com, and there's a daily blog. And I wrote about a Houstonian named Brent Sullivan, and I know Brent, and he is he participates. He's actually the founder of the John Cornyn Houston office protest. But he's a citizen, and I wanted to write about him because I feel I've been responding too much on my blog to what elected officials do. And in the end, we're going to have to be the leaders. And so Brent went to City Council. Brent Sullivan. You can go to the public speaking time, which is every Tuesday at 2:00. Anyone can go. You can also watch the sessions on Houston TV, HTV, which streams through Facebook and has its own website. So Brent went to council, and this is what he said. It was about January 6th, and he said this to the mayor and the 16 members of council. January 6th was a multi-layered attempt to end democracy as we know it. Today, fake electors are running for office and may be in charge of election. Violent participants are praised and offered pardons. Their leader continues to deny the election outcome and has said if he's not declared the winner, we'll see trouble like we've never seen before. These are not the words of a man running to enlarge his base and win the election, but to enrage his base and win the next coup. It's the duty of every citizen to support and defend democracy and the responsibility of electeds to plan for foreseeable events. How can we stop a coup? History shows massive, nonviolent, non-confrontational rallies for democracies can overcome a coup. I call on council to plan and hold the pro-democracy rallies in every district and show leadership in the nation, to be clear that these would be nonpartisan rallies throughout the period from the election to the inauguration. It's understand to be caught off guard the first time. It's malpractice to be caught off guard the second time. Let's all stand together for democracy with a series of rallies in every district. And so he spoke to council, and he did not receive a reply or a question. So you go to council, and you can just speak, or members of council or the mayor can ask you a question or make a comment. No one replied to Brent. This is right in front of us. This is a hurricane warning right in front of us. The right promises violence if they lose, authoritarianship if they win. They are clear about mass migrant roundups. Our Harris County Republican nominees for sheriff and right-wing, they are right-wing, sheriff and district attorney are super right-wing, and they are out there. And so I wanted to highlight Brent Sullivan, a citizen, just a citizen of Houston who went to council, spoke about the democracy issues, and nobody spoke up. But we all have the capacity to go contact, reach out, speak to, call, email our city council and say, if there's a coup, what are you going to do? If someone steals an election, what are you going to do? And what are you doing? What are you doing to prevent it?
Neil, first of all, I want to welcome Billy Allison Irwin in the chat. Thank you so kindly for being here. Here's the thing. Why I love that you highlight that is for 2 reasons. One, to show either the ineptitude or the idea that politicians are so scared to come to the forefront of this new reality that's affecting the country. That's number one. Number two, what you said in your blog, we can't wait on these politicians as saviors. We have to save ourselves. We have to save ourselves. And we're not saving ourselves from Donald Trump. We are saving this is something that we have to do continuously. Donald Trump is but a puppet, but a strong representation of the puppetry. Let's get this right. While we have central focus on Donald Trump as this evil person, Donald Trump doesn't have a lot upstairs. Donald Trump doesn't have the ability to convince the second largest voting bloc that has ever voted in a presidential election before. I want everybody to listen to what I just said. Why Donald Trump was so sure that he was going to win the election, even though a lot of the advocates thought that he wouldn't. First of all, the first time it was a fluke, but it was made a fluke for him. The second time, he thought he had it because of microengineering involved in the amount of people that he got to vote for him was magical. All the things that worked together to get him the second highest number of votes ever received by a presidential candidate in this country was even higher than what Hillary got in the previous. And he still lost with that because of the mobilization of progressives, etc. So folks, understand this. We are responsible for our democracy. We are responsible. We can't sit back and be fearful and say, oh my God, this tsunami is coming and we can do nothing about it. Oh yeah, you can do something about it. I told you about speaking to that undocumented worker who was telling me a lot of stuff in certain parts of his community that I was unaware of, right? Let me tell you that what Neil just spoke about, his friend, Mr. Sullivan, going to city council and speaking to city council about an existential threat. And after that threat was exposed or made clear and a potential solution given to the city council, while all of them sat and listened to him, there was crickets. No response, not a question, not a statement, nothing out of these guys. Saving this democracy, saving this country, saving our brothers and sisters, whether on the left or the right, is not going to be done by the politicians. It's going to be done by you. Lizard Queen, good morning. She is in, let's see, good morning, Houston from El Paso. You must be at the Democratic Convention where I was supposed to be as well. But you know what can I say? I'm here, KPFT first. Anyway, folks, Lizard Queen, welcome aboard. So people, you are going to save the democracy. Lizard Queen, as you are out there at the convention is what I wanted to say. The Democratic Convention, or as you are there at the Texas Democratic Convention in El Paso, you let them know, first of all, about KPFT. Let them know that it is imperative that they be a part of the action. Okay? But anyway, let's get back to Neil because he has another blog that I really, that's, you know, go ahead and you tell about the blog, the second blog.
So, and when I said it will be up to us, that is really the case. It will be up to us. And when they overturn, when Harris County, they throw out a few thousand votes to alter an election outcome, and when we're on the streets about that, it will really be up to us. And they will, and our own elected officials will, whether they'll be on the right side of a police line, I think is highly a contested question. So please engage with them. I wrote a post. It was based off of a so-called town hall on crime, right? It didn't say whether they were going to be preventing crime or committing crime.
That is funny.
And
That is funny. I'm sorry. Wait. Listen, my brother is so funny. He says that with a straight face. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, right. So it was at a church. And so the three speakers were Julian Ramirez, who's a city council member, an at-large city council member, Mike Knox, who used to be a city council member, who's the Republican nominee for sheriff, and Andy Kahan at Crime Stoppers, which is a topic for another day. But that's a topic. Crime Stoppers a topic. But just note that he was there too. So they were having this time a town hall on crime, and Mike Knox, the sheriff nominee, testified in the last legislative session in front of State Senator Paul Betancourt's voter suppression committee. That's what I call it, a voter suppression committee, about how people were getting water and snacks while waiting in line to vote. Right, that's been the basis of the Georgia laws. That's what he was complaining about. Right, and that's all you need to know about Mr. Knox. That's all you need to know. He is the Republican sheriff nominee, and he has been running in concert with Dan Simons, who is the Republican district attorney nominee for the Republicans in Harris County. And Simons was one of the 22 people who filed one of the election overturn lawsuits from 2022. So one reason I wanted to write this post is I just wanted to begin to highlight Mr. Knox and Mr. Simons, the sheriff and DA. We do not want these people in charge of law enforcement. We do not want these people in charge of law enforcement in Harris County. And I wanted to highlight Councilman Ramirez, Julian Ramirez. He goes by Julian, not Julian. Julian Ramirez is the name he goes by. And he has endorsed Mr. Knox for sheriff. And I watched council meetings. You can watch them. And Mr. Ramirez is a competent and effective Republican partisan. He's on the trail consistently. And our city council Democrats, Alcorn, Castix Tatum, Castillo, Evans Shabazz, Jackson, Kamen, Martinez, Plummer, Pollard, Thomas, they need to be out there too. We have this culture, and I want to reference the HCAT elections as part of what I'm talking about in this segment. The council Democrats need to be there too. The Republicans have this culture where they are more effectively out there for their folks. Here we have democracy on the line. So, and this references the segment we just had about Brent Sullivan, where no one asked him a question. They need to be out there, and we need to demand that they be out there. I was at the Houston LGBTQIA political PAC meeting, the caucus meeting last night, and they were talking about the HCAT elections, and I heard, this was secondhand, but I heard from someone who I trusted, for the Harris County Appraisal District elections that are going on right now, 63% of the recorded votes are from Republican primary voters. You know, you vote and they know your voting history.
Right.
Neil Aquino has voted. They can look up my voting history, and it's all public record. 63%. Now the turnout is something, I don't even think the turnout is 1% yet.
Right.
So Melissa Noriega, Palumi Adelke, authoritarianism will require a local infrastructure. All of these Republicans at every level, the mass migrant roundups, the threats of violence if they win, someone will have to implement that. Someone will have to offer the political support for that. Greg Abbott and Donald Trump and Dan Patrick aren't everywhere. So what I'm saying here is three things. The Harris County Republican ticket is extreme. They don't moderate, right? If Mealier had moderated, she might well have won, but she just ran so far to the right. Secondly, ask the people you vote for to come out. And third, the HCAT elections are going on. Early voting ends the 11th. Election day is the 15th. This is really an election where word of mouth, or calling your neighbor, your coworker, your church mate, your sewing club, book club, a friend or colleague can make a difference. Noriega and Adelke, please get word out. This is a raw contest of who can these are the only things on the ballot. This is just a raw contest of who can get their voters out, and it's important to win.
I want to get back to that, but beforehand, we have some good information here from Nancy Saiba Naritomi, who she says to speak to the Houston City Council. It's Tuesdays at 2 p.m. If you want to speak to the City Council, it's done Tuesdays at 2 p.m. you're required to make a reservation. And get ready to write this down, people. The phone number is 832-393-1100 before Monday, 3 p.m. Central. Again, if you want to speak at City Council, you call 832-393-1100 before Monday at 3 p.m. And that is for you to speak there between 2 p.m. and after on Tuesday. You can also reach the secretary by going to speakers@houstontx.gov. That is speakers@houstontx.gov. Information that, you and I do this kind of stuff all the time, and sometimes we are not as granular as we need to be so that people can say, what is the action item? And you gave the action, and one of our listeners and a dear worker here at KPFT that listens, that is Nancy Saiba Nadatomi. She gave us some more granular information. Right. Thank you very much, Nancy.
I'm appreciative of that. Thank you. And Mayor Whitmire, I'll believe it when I see it. He hasn't mentioned it. He has talked about allowing people to register. We'll see. He's talking about moving council sessions to different parts of town and different hours and different. We'll see if he actually does that. And the public, if you speak, you're in front of council. You're in front of whomever is there, and then you are available to be seen on the HTV. They save those recordings, and it's there. And council members do frequently respond or not.
All right. Look, I want to welcome. We have another person. Let me just welcome all in the chat. We have Billy Allison Irwin speaking. We have Lizard Queen, who came into us from El Paso. We also have beyond Lizard Queen, Alizarin Dreams. Welcome aboard, Alizarin Dreams, to our chat as well. But Neil, sometimes we can get a headache. I want everybody to understand one thing. While I guess both of us are very strong and dedicated progressives, what we are first and foremost in the believers of democracy and believers that everybody should have equal access to the ballot, and that whomever win, you go ahead and accept that. And if you think you need to get your point across, you spend the time that you have thereafter and work as hard as possible to convince folks that maybe your way is the way, and then you put it up to the vote again. That is how things work. That is what Trump and his cronies are trying to teach their folks, meaning their Republican brothers and sisters, that it doesn't matter about democracy, but just getting what you want. We have to work hard against that, folks. All right, let's go to Steve. Steve is calling in from, I don't know, but he wants to talk local politics. Brother Steve, talk to me.
Hey, Brother Egberto, Brother Neil, good morning.
Hello.
Yeah, I had a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, good morning. Always like hearing the politics, but locally, or in our state anyway, I haven't heard anything about over the last few weeks. I know we had a fund drive, and I actually doubled up and extra contributed to that.
I appreciate you for that, Steve. Thank you so kindly. And others that just heard what Steve said, you're a part of this team. Let's go ahead and get those support. Even as we're out of fund drive, you can still call 713-526-5738 extension 1, give, or go to kpft.org and hit that donate button. Of course, say that you're doing it in the name of politics and right. Continue, brother.
Thanks. I just haven't heard anything. I heard a small blip about, do you know who Garrett Foster was? And Daniel Perry and Greg Abbott pardoning Daniel Perry for shooting Garrett Foster, who was part of the Black Lives Matter protest. Anyway, he got to serve, I guess, close to a year in prison, and then Abbott decided to turn over the judicial system and just pardon him, which, has happened many times over the last couple thousand years with people in power, but it doesn't mean it's right. I was just wondering if you've heard anything, any backlash on that, or if it was just a small.
Go ahead, Neil.
There is an update on that. Let me pull it up here. This is a Texas Tribune story from June 4th. The Travis County DA, Jose Garza, who they're trying to get rid of, the state is trying to get rid of under their so-called rogue prosecutor law. He's the district attorney. His office would ask the state's highest criminal court to overturn the pardon. So he has been doing that. They're also, I'm looking for a specific factual reference in here, but I know also, I think I saw that, here it is. Following Abbott's pardon, a group of 14 attorney generals from across the country wrote a letter to the U.S. Department of Justice asking the federal agency to investigate whether Perry violated Foster's civil rights. So there are two efforts to the state criminal court and to these attorney generals to the federal government. So yes, there is backlash and effort.
Let me just add to that, because this type of criminality, I'm talking about what's the name of the killer again? Perry?
Daniel Perry.
Daniel Perry. Yeah. When Daniel Perry committed a crime, that is a state action, right? Murder is a state action. The only way, and again, the way they did this around the civil rights is not civil rights, the state rights versus federal rights, etc., is to somehow point out that what was done violated somebody's civil rights. So I think what these attorney generals around the world, around the country are doing is it's not about just accusing Abbott of violating the person's civil rights, but actually Perry can be held on a different charge federally for that. And that's how the cops in California that beat up on Rodney King, that's how they were held accountable, that sort of thing. So thank you for bringing that up, Steve. Again, it's scary that what is scary is the following. What is scary is that what Abbott told to those people that don't think like he does, that, it's open season. If you happen to kill one of the folks that, that's against us, go ahead and do it, because we'll be there to pardon you. You know what is so funny about this whole issue? Donald Trump at his rallies. Welcome aboard Melanie Keelan from Barcelona, Spain in the chat, as well as Eric Hayes from Atascocita, Kingwood in the chat. Donald Trump, Steve, at many of his rallies, used to tell folks that, beat up those people that disagree with us or that decide to hold up a banner or whatever. I'll bail you out of jail. So he would say things like, you do the crime, I'll make sure you don't do the time. But the truth is, Donald Trump never executed on that reality. A lot of people are in jail right now because they followed Donald Trump's lead. Look at the people that Donald Trump has pardoned. It's the elite. Right? It's not the worker bees that did the things for Donald Trump, his deeds. Now, Abbott actually pardoned a killer. So Donald Trump creates a lot of these actions. Anyway, anything else, Steve, you want to say before we move on?
No, that's Donald Trump's facing a felony, or I guess he's a felon now, and the regular shoe is on his foot now. So thanks for being here, both y'all, Neil and Egberto.
Thank you so kindly. Let's see, Billy. Anyway, folks, you can give us a call, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit extension 2, and we can get you on air right away. Extension 2, and we can get you on air right away. Since we don't have any calls yet, and you know what is so funny, Neil, I never get to all the subjects that I want to get to because people call in and they are able to change whatever the subject of the program is. But anything you want to add before I jump into Medicare, which is what we keyed off from Mr. Jack Van Bibber.
One thing I want to highlight is Jarvis Johnson still hasn't conceded. So maybe he will. So this is the Jarvis Johnson Molly Cook race. This election today is the election was 9 days ago. And Molly won by 74 votes. Molly, I know Molly a little bit, so Senator Cook, and that margin is now 62 votes. So some provisional votes were counted. Now maybe he's going to concede, but I just want to put this out here so I look smart if he refuses to concede. He made a post on Facebook 6 days ago. We need to ensure every ballot's been counted, blah, blah, blah. I'm having conversations with our legal team and political advisors. We'll provide an update soon. So 5 days ago, he made an update on his Facebook page, blah, blah, blah. Power outages affected numerous people and some lost their identification documents in the chaos. Now, I'm not sure what that has to do with the outcome. And there were storms that day, if you remember. So he posted on Facebook, we expect to have the results within hours or something like that. He deleted that post and made a new post with the same words, we expect to have the results soon. So provisional ballots have been counted. We went from 74 to 62. I don't know, I don't know what's still in there. There's military ballots. There's ballots to be resolved. So maybe he's just waiting. But we saw the example where the judge threw out Deshaun Jones's 400 vote victory in Harris County. There were a lot more voters in that election. So I would encourage Jarvis Johnson to concede. Don't add to the climate of refusing to accept election results. Maybe there's nothing to it. Maybe he's just waiting, but he's changed his Facebook message. He hasn't stuck to the timelines, he said. And now we're at day 9. And so we'll see where that goes.
Well, the interesting thing is that it's already cauterized that she's the one that's going to be running in November against, I don't remember who her opponent is going to be. But
something.
Yeah.
Part of the right.
Right. But folks, you can give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 2. That's 713-526-5738 if you want to mention anything on air. But Neil, what I've realized with many in the establishment Democratic Party, and I hate to say this, but this is what I'm seeing. If you take a look at how Whitmire is governing and how Whitmire is speaking, and if you take a look at crickets coming out when we mention certain things about the right, if you take a look at how you don't see a lot of party involvement with the HCAT election, and I need to actually remind a few things about the HCAT elections.
Let me say that with the HCAT election, actually, the Harris County Democratic Party is canvassing, and State Representative Christina Morales. I'm slow to praise elected officials. Christina Morales has been good, and the tax assessor nominee Annette Ramirez, who I asked if she would be involved with the HCAT, and she said she would, and she has. So I want to praise the ones who do, and then you're hearing a lot of names I'm not mentioning. But yes, go ahead.
Yeah, well, thanks for that correction. That's better than I thought. I got some messages, I think maybe from people in the party saying, "Oh yeah, we support Odelki and Noriega, Melissa Noriega." And by the way, we had Melissa Noriega on the show here a couple of times. Of course, her opponent has the right to be on this show as well if they so choose. Now, the thing about it is, I want to for what these guys are doing. I want to start seeing progressives and Democrats engaging the way Republicans engage. The reason why they bat above their average, they bat above their weight, is because the one thing they understand is community engagement. I live here in Kingwood, Texas. Kingwood, Texas is a very, very red area. And this, for whatever part of the country you're in, this is a reality. I live in Kingwood, Texas, and, the churches are right-leaning, except for, again, a church that I've been working with here in Kingwood that is now supporting some great progressive type work. But most of these churches are right-leaning. Most of the organizations in this town are right-leaning, and I mean very right-leaning, and they continuously engage people. You go ahead and we have town halls, and we have in town center events where people get together and there is soft campaigning, not anything that looks like outward campaigning, but what it does is it gives you a soft feeling towards the right. And these are all good people, but what they're doing is engaging. That is something that we don't do enough of. And yesterday, as I told you, I was going to mention the story about speaking to the undocumented worker and his community. And, it's amazing how, people have been talking about, oh, Donald Trump is making headways in the Latino community. That's in his imagination and all that kind of stuff, because Latinos are not even going to, they won't even consider Donald Trump. He wants to deport the immigrants. And I have a message to tell folks. No, Latinos are really actually in very large numbers. I'm not talking about on the edges like your elitist Democratic consultants would have you believe. Many are getting some misinformation, and they're and Republicans are using carnalities to get these people who they hate, these people who they don't like because they're immigrants, whatever. But they're getting immigrants against immigrants as a solution for them to vote for Donald Trump. And it's done by very good propaganda that's being placed in the Latino community. And Democratic Party is failing to counteract what is being done in that community in Spanish. And right. I spoke to this person for about an hour. And, I wanted to, because I'm not listening to all the different stations that these guys are listening to. I'm not embedded in certain areas in the community. And what he had to tell me, I'm like, this is what consultants need to be knowing and that they don't know. So in effect, and I'm not to tell the whole story, but I'm going to give a little short synopsis of what my Latino brother told me. He said, let me tell you something, Egberto. And he said, when you think about it, let me tell you what's happening. A lot of undocumented worker and their American families. In other words, most Latino families are somehow blended, right? Documented and undocumented, right? That cross-border, all that good stuff. And that's not unusual, that's not really wrong. I mean, the border, if we look at history, the border moved, right? But anyhow, here's the thing. And by the way, for those who are going to say, Venezuelans were never here, you're right. Haitians were never here, you're right. Guatemalan were never here, you're right. But you get what I'm talking about. What he said is the following. A lot of these undocumented workers, they are hard workers. They come here and they're taking care of kids. They're doing lawns. Some of them are doing construction and all these other issues. And the way the Trump folks have spun what's occurring at the border is to tell a lot of these people that are listening to this radio station, look how hard you're working. Look at the things that you are doing. You are the ones that are making things happen. And you have those freeloaders coming from across the border. They're getting housed in New York, and they're getting housed in Chicago, and they're getting housed in Miami. They're getting housed in all these places. And you, even as you're undocumented and with your American family, you are working so hard, and they're freeloading on you. You don't even have your papers. They come in, and Biden is giving them papers. And these are things that are believed in these communities, right? They don't get the picture as far as what the international law and all. And he said, mira, hermano, nosotros no sabemos nada de esa vaina. He's saying, we don't know anything of those things, that those technical things that you're telling me now, Egberto, we don't know about those things. If we did, we would think differently. But kind of the messaging coming from Trump actually sounds like it makes sense. And when we were done talking, right, he was like, oh, my God. He told me at the other end, you need to do politics done right in Spanish. I said, well, that's actually on the tables for me to do politics done right in Spanish. It's something that I intend to do in the short term. But beforehand, let me go ahead and start getting to the phones, and let's start with Brother Art. Come on in, Art.
All right.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I know I got family that are they were very Democratic, and they've been pushed, I'll say, because of the way they were starting to lean towards Trump. A lot of them are leaning towards Kennedy, and it has nothing to do with, they all hate Trump, but they see as Trump as the middle finger to the people that can't determine what a male is, what a female is. Some can't said that, and I agree that the economy was better under Trump. And I'm trying to convince them. Well, I'm not trying to convince them. I'm just saying, okay, well, I'm going for Bobby Kennedy, but no one's going for Biden. And for when people say that, Latinos should not vote for, Trump because they're being duped, to an extent, I believe that. But there are some real, Hispanic Latinos that are for Trump, and they're looking past a lot of BS to accept, a better economy, the fight on crime. Again, I'm not, defending Trump whatsoever, but there are intelligent, Latinos out there that can justify why they're voting for Trump. And we can't take, I think Latinos, along with the Black community, has been taken for granted that we have to vote Democratic. And the Democrats today, whether it be the established or the new Democrats, the socialist Democrats, the woke Democrats, whatever side, they just can't, they can't hold water. They can't, there's nothing that they can show that they've done, currently. They can go back decades that they have done a lot for the, the Black and brown community. But now, again, I mean, simple things like not knowing what a woman is, not knowing what a man is, what work is, what it takes to hold 2-3 jobs down. And those guys that are holding 2-3 jobs down, whether they have documents or not, are somewhat in favor of Trump. And I'm like, God, I don't see how they can do that. And I don't think they've been duped. You may say that they've been duped or whatever. And to an extent, I agree with that. But when you talk with them, they can rationalize to an extent why they're voting for Trump. And some of them aren't even allowed to vote. They don't have the paperwork to vote.
All right. May I respond? Because first of all, there's so much truth to what you have to say, right? But the first thing I want to do is correct a few things. First of all, from as far as the economy being better under Trump, that is a calculable and mathematically false statement. All right. I mean, the one thing I strongly believe in is numbers. And I understand that when a rhetoric goes out there, it's easy to believe when you just look at certain top lines or whatever. I don't have enough time to go into the whole thing, but let me just say, mathematically speaking, the economy was definitely not better under Trump. And even when we compare the pre-COVID years of our economy with Trump, which is the extension of the Obama economy. Nothing got percolated into Trump's economy until after the second year. Even then, the economy and that period, and if we take the Biden period, if you look at all the numbers, the Biden numbers are factually higher than Trump. Even so that's the first statement. The second statement is, and this is something else I was explaining to the undocumented worker. What you are right about, is the Black vote, the Latino vote being taken for granted. This is what Black folks, Latinos, and other people are told all of the times. They're told, wait a minute, let's hold off a minute because we don't want to alienate X, Y, and Z. So you guys just hold them. We're going to get to you. We're going to get to the things that concern you. But they never do because, again, you are so right. Too often these policies are disregarded for Black folks, Latinos, and not only that, for a lot of different identities. Now, I want to speak about the trans specifically. Let me ask you this. Other than people bringing up this trans issue so often, have any trans issue affected your life or the lives of your family at any time? And I want you to think and be honest about the answer. Has the trans issue ever percolated into your life other than what you hear on TV or the radio?
Well, from the first statement, you're talking about the math. I think math that we use, the blue collar workers that live in different parts of the city, we're not looking at math. We don't have time to look at, spreadsheets or things of that. What we look at is our bank accounts, our checks today, and what it was 4 years ago, which we can still remember. We remember to an extent what we could get with $100 at your local grocery store 4 years ago and what we can get now.
Okay, good.
So,
I want to stop you there. Let me tell you why I want to stop you there, because you're right. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. In other words, let me finish. So, all right, I don't have a lot of time and I got to answer you because you're right. People look at what their current condition is. So there are two things. The current condition of many is like what you just said there. But here's the kicker. We have to, it is my job to be honest, and it is my job to make sure that people understand not what is happening solely, but also why it is happening. If you are concerned about inflation, which you are, you ask yourself, what is it that caused the inflation? I've given many programs on the truth about inflation. And the truth of the matter, it has little to do with a president. But here's what's funny about this. Presidents can cause inflation in just a few ways. Tariffs is one. So if you take a look at the average worker out there that working for themselves and busting hard and buying equipment and so forth, most of these equipments and stuff are made in where again? China. And when you start throwing tariffs on these equipment, since we are so dependent on buying things there, inflation is an increase in prices, however it happens. That's where it comes from. The second part of inflation that needs to be spoken about is corporate greed. And I know you sitting down as a carpenter or whatever you are may not necessarily immediately see corporate greed. That's a fancy word. But we have to tell folks exactly that it's not a president that's doing it. If Biden were to say, we're going to cut the profit margin, companies cannot make over X amount of profit or X amount over the dollars, they're going to convince you to tell everybody you're a socialist. But what's happening is in our current economic system, we allow the corporations to rip you off. And then you look at the president and say, hey, president, that's caused by you. That's not the case. It's just as bad if something is bad in your personal economy as not knowing who is causing that which is bad. Art, I got to go to Brian, but give me a 10-second answer.
No, that was it. Thank you for letting me, say my
Absolutely.
piece.
This is your show, sir. I appreciate you.
Yeah, and then I didn't want to dodge the last question about trans. Trans things never really, bothered me. I've never been, personally affected. There's some in my family, and that's all fine. I think what and again, this hasn't affected our house or anyone in my family, but I think where the trans started getting issues was they started going after, I won't say going after her, but I don't know, when they started going to the schools, the drags, reading.
I tell you what, let's talk about this another day because I need to go to Joe and then Brian.
COVID thing, and
come on in, Joe.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, Egberto. Man,
I'm so sorry that I overspoke. I only got 30 seconds for you, so make your point, brother.
Oh, hey, man, no one's buying your narrative anymore, bud. I mean, you can talk about whatever economic KPIs you want, but the fact is, things were better under Trump, right? I read something the other day, and corporate greed is a joke, dude. The profit margins are exactly the same now under this recovery as they were under the last, 10 recoveries. So you can't blame corporate greed. Profit margins are the same. There is no price gouging.
Can I respond to that?
Real quick.
Let me just say I'm looking at a Forbes story right here. Target, Amazon Fresh, Walmart, Aldi, CVS have all announced substantial price reductions in the last few days because they were overcharging for stuff and they've broken people's budgets. Target, Amazon, Walmart, all these companies are cutting. They decided that they wanted to cut because they knew they had raised the prices too much. It was the companies that did it. It wasn't Biden. It was the companies.
Okay, I got to go to Brian now. Joe, thank you. And by the way, people will be listening to our narrative because it is the truth. Come on in, Brian. Real quick, you have 30 seconds.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. You are correct. Profit margin is not inflation related. And I was going to say something about the laptop that Hunter Biden had that was denied as evidence for all these years. They just introduced it as evidence as his gun trial.
I know.
So
That man so you should be happy. Brian, you should be happy, and I got to go. But thank you for bringing that up. Let's go ahead and go to the studio.
Oh, nothing here. Just letting folks know that we're not streaming. And they can't hear us on the stream, but we are broadcasting on the FM band. And that's all we got for right now. Waiting on AT&T to fix their stuff so we can get our stuff fixed too. And that's just about it.
Jack,
10 seconds. Anything? All right.
No.
He says no.
Okay,
no.
Let's get Neil Aquino to tell us about Houston Democracy Project, how the people can get there.
Right. Please go to HoustonDemocracyProject.com, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. Support the effort. Read the blog and the HCAT elections. Noriega and Adelke. Voting ends the 11th. Early voting, election day the 15th. Tell everyone you know it's a low turnout deal.
All right, folks, this is Egberto Willies. I want you guys, folks, for what we didn't cover on Medicare, please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Folks, my name is Egberto Willies. Love you all. Love the studio. Love Neil. We got to start loving on each other. That is how we're going to start listening to each other. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I'm this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com. Publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.